Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Rising podcast, where we discuss all of Redux Rising news, as well as esports gaming conversation, and anything else really the field of the air. I myself am Zovrus. You can follow me on Twitch, Twitter, all that stuff, and joined with me is Verks. You can also
What it do?
you can also follow him on Twitter and chat with him on our Discord. So, kind of the point of this podcast really is to kind of share, if you will, our pretty much our organization news as well as what's going on with our esports teams, and then kind of open the floor up a little bit and talk about gaming and esports news. So, to pretty much start us off on the docket. Also, before I forget, because first episode and everything. If you happen to be listening to this on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere else, we do stream this live on Twitch. It's usually probably about a monthly podcast streamed live on Twitch at Redux Rising. So be sure to give it a follow so you can catch a live show. So going forward, Redux Rising has gotten a couple new members in the last month. It's Kuski, who is going to be our Rocket League team manager. He's still working together, put a team to help us break out into new ventures. And we also welcome Blonde Wolf, who joins us, who streams a lot of horror games as well as FPS games. I know she's been streaming a lot of Apex lately, so be sure to go check her out. Blonde Wolf, BLONDWOLF. And yeah, go check her out. I don't know if you've had a chance to talk with any of the Verks, but both people are pretty nice. Pretty good people.
Yeah, I've not been here for too long. I'm just kind of, here.
Yeah. All right. We also released a updated version of our website over at reduxrising.com, and we also plan to release our first merch drop this Friday, this upcoming Friday, May 21st, where there'll also be a chance to snag a limited edition shirt. So, keep an eye out on our Twitter at Redux Rising to grab your shirt when the merch drops, because that's going to be one hot shirt. I'm actually wearing the shirt right now, so you can see what it looks like and grab it yourself. So now we're kind of jump over to pretty much esports news, at least for Redux Rising. The Fiasco team has entered their season 37 and has pretty much been undefeated, which is crazy because last season they went 12-4 and didn't quite make the cut for the next stage of advanced. But this year it actually looks like they're about to do it.
On the come up.
Yeah, they're on the come up right now. They're 3-0, and they haven't even really broken a sweat. The closest match that's come so far is a 16-8. And so they look very strong. Unfortunately, the last match had to be forfeited by the other team because there was some technical issues. But we take the dubs, and it's unfortunate that they happen, but they do happen. But yeah, they look really strong, and even finishing out last season, they looked really strong. And also playing in a tournament over their season break from ESEA. They played in a Phoenix series, but I think by Community Games. I forget who organized it. But they played a team that was like 2 tiers above them, and they made it a really close match. And like the team they faced tried working its way into the CS Summit recently, which is a precursor to getting in like DreamHack and stuff like that. So they showed a pretty good promise, and they continued to stride forward with greatness. They show really good promise. Yeah. Going on forward, the Call of Duty U team that we have, they were also 2 teams that are outstanding in their areas right now. The COD U team went undefeated in the recent MCA tournament, where they went 8-0 in their bracket, like defeating everyone. Even the hardest opponent was a 3-1 victory. But unfortunately, they actually had to drop out due to the organizers not failing to mention that the playoffs are going to be played over the weekend versus like the following weeks. and so they unfortunately had to drop out due to the poor scheduling because they all had to work and wouldn't be able to make the games.
Sucks.
That does suck.
God.
Could you imagine like going through and like going through and making your presence known in a tournament to have to back out because the organizers didn't organize it well enough?
Unfortunate. And COD's like a very you have to be very patient because I don't know if they do, but I sure get mad at COD, bro.
Yeah,
All that time,
I've watched
God,
their matches too, and like they remain so calm compared to me yelling at my teammate. Like, why?
that's what I'm saying. Like how?
I don't know. It's crazy too. I've since watching their matches, when they come off to a slow start or they lose their first map, they always bounce back. It's like they have like the hardest resilience I've seen in any Call of Duty team. So if you haven't caught their matches, they usually have them probably about usually sometimes for the day, especially if you live on the East Coast of the United States, um, because unfortunately they are they are a UK team. But if you can catch a match, or I want to see if Holgerson can even put up some of his VODs because he streams them as he's a PC player, so he's usually required to stream it. And I kind of hope he can put them up so people can go and watch them because they're actually really good.
I tuned to myself, honestly.
No,
Need to learn.
yeah. I mean, I would go to them. Holgerson itself is a beast. I made a clip montage that he did a few. I forget what tournament it was, but he got like a 13 killing spree like against like one of the top tier teams of like their bracket at the time, which is hard to do in competitive Call of Duty. We have higher ranked league players all on the same map. It's usually kind of hard to get that kind of spree.
Well, yeah, I mean,
But yeah, unfortunately, I had to back out from that, and they look to go forward and keep their streak going. So all the props to them. They look really solid, look really good. Our Valorant team is new, and they're kind of still getting the feels out. So working out their mechanics and like that, but they're looking pretty solid recently as well. Showing some good signs from the recent scrims.
gotta start somewhere.
Exactly, and yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the. Oh, and the R6 team, the Rainbow Six team is kind of taking a backseat to the super competitive motion, trying to work out its what's the word I want to say? Kind of like its approach, as just trying to find themselves out, and we'll see what they do in the future. We're finding the love of the game again for our vets. That's true. Yeah, I mean competitive gaming itself. I guess that would be a good segue. Is how much does competitive gaming really affect your mental capacity in the sense of like burnout and stuff like that?
100%. That's how I was with Siege.
Yeah,
That's why I haven't played it in the last like month.
right. And so I haven't felt that way against Siege, but like Counter Strike, like when a few years ago when I first got into the scene in like 2013, I could play games for like hours and not get bored of it or burnt out or want to even take a break. And now it's just like I play 2-3 games and I'm like, all right, I'm done for like the week or the month, and it feels like that's kind of becoming a trend, is especially in Valorant where you see people getting burnt out, and CS as well. CS:GO is a huge one for burnouts, where people just aren't having fun with the game anymore.
Almost every game, and I think a major like factor, honestly, is this whole virus. Everyone's been locked inside, and all they can really do is stay inside.
Right. There's no real motivation to do it because it's like, what's the motivation to still be in your house, to not really go anywhere, to lands, meet anyone, even experience what it's like to be a professional gamer.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. That was like one of the hardest things from like one of the teams I usually watch, which is Team Liquid on CS:GO side. Is like their recent struggles are pretty much due to like COVID. Like there's no motivation. Yeah, as Apache's saying right now in chat, it's pretty much like working a 9 to 5 job to come home and work 9 to 5 again. Because you don't really get a break other than like a couple minutes to like between scrims or between practice sessions, and then You're going back to the same chair you do every day.
Horrible.
Yeah, so it's got to be rough. I mean, I'm sure the people who are persevering through it are doing it for the reasons that hopefully lands do come back soon, which when lands do come back, it'll be huge because not only is it going to put CSGO kind of back in its own stabilized manner where certain teams aren't going to be as competitive, or maybe they will, and it'll be fun to see lands again. And it'd be kind of interesting to see how Valorant's approach, considering they've kind of evolved into the online era, and see how they manage LAN events. Because as far as, I mean, I know Riot itself with League of Legends, they host some pretty good LANs, but they've never really hosted them for Valorant before. So it'd be pretty interesting to see how they decide to tackle that. It's not really the same in Burnout or the pressure, because, yeah. I mean, I'm sure the pressure, pressure in Burnout is different, though, because, like, you could be in those high tense moments, even come out on the losing end, and still love the game because, like, you were in that moment. I don't think there's really anyone who's made it to a pro team, been in that pressured moment, and come out of it, we're like, yeah, I hated it. Some people prefer not to be in those moments, like Flom and of like the Mythic League or Team Mythic and whatnot. But I think when you get put in that situation, you experience it, it's different. So it's definitely something that hopefully gets changed soon, especially with COVID on its positive trend recently, especially on like at least on the East Coast of the United States.
Yeah, masks are finally going away, thankfully.
Yeah, in most areas, especially where I live in Massachusetts, masks are starting to work their ways out. At least if you're vaccinated, which unfortunately brings up another scenario where
Yeah.
we found out. No, not only that, but like we found out that you can't, as a business owner or someone who works in a business, you technically can't legally ask someone if they have had the vaccine because it's classified as a HIPAA violation. Or borderline as a HIPAA violation, I would say. Not only that, but then you run the risk of losing customers because they don't want to keep being asked, hey, can I see your proof of vaccination?
Yeah.
And then not only that, you have to keep your vaccination card on you and all of that. But I guess that's a topic for another day. But it's good to see. Hopefully, Lance come back soon. That's really our big thing. And then hopefully, if our teams start doing well, Redux teams can start seeing some lands too. I know the CSGO team would probably like do what's it, Fragadelphia in Philadelphia, whatnot. I know they would probably do really well with that. I mean, that's pretty much it for the Redux Esports news. Unless you have anything else to add, Verx.
I haven't really been in the loop recently. I've been focusing a lot on school.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah, I mean, school is rough. I'm lucky to have graduated 5 years ago now. Almost 5 years ago. Yeah.
Look at how old everyone is here.
I graduated the same year my son was born. But yeah, all right. So I guess we'll move over. I guess we'll talk about other esports news, like the Rainbow Six invitational problems that they had. I'm sure you've heard about it, Verx.
Just no.
I just want to know who in the right mind at the Ubisoft meeting was like, or even at the Rainbow Six organizers meeting was like, we've had some really good moderation volunteers. Let's just boot them all off and hire a different team that has no idea how to manage a Twitch chat.
God.
Where people who are casters are like really well known in the Rainbow Six scene were getting banned for just saying regular chat messages like
you guys are doing great. All right, get up.
Yeah. No, you guys are doing fantastic. And we're not paying you, but we're going to pay this other company to do what you do. But worse. Someone got timed out for saying GG. Right, exactly. People were saying, like, GGs are, like, let's go, like, their team, or saying, like, something they would have said in, like, a previous Siege tournament, and they were getting banned. Everyone was getting banned. Even people who were like VIPs in the channel were getting banned. It was.
Yeah,
Could you
from what I've
imagine?
heard, it was
Yeah,
horrible.
that's awful. Could you imagine like it being like a fundraiser thing where it's like your volunteer staff, you're like, oh yeah, no, we don't want you here. We're gonna hire up another team of volunteers that will just shove everyone away so we don't hit our goals. It's
I'm
pretty
really
much just.
curious on like what the reason was that everyone was just kicked out.
I wonder.
Like, did they ever say anything?
I didn't really find anything, and granted, I didn't really look, but I kind of wonder if it kind of falls under with how Riot was introducing a way to decrease toxicity by starting to monitor voice chats. I wonder if they wanted to bring in a team that could provide a less toxic environment for someone who is coming into Twitch for the first time. And I kind of wonder if that was the mindset of why they decided to basically just fire off their whole mod team and bring in people who didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, I have no clue.
That's just weird to me that. Yeah, and then I think there was a couple of issues. Unique chat is turned on, right? Modern voice chats, like, I mean, I get it. I mean, it's more. And people are like, oh, no, they're gonna monitor voice chats. It's like, well, if we don't want to be monitored, use something else. Use Discord, use something else. But I like the approach that Valorant is doing with this, is that they're trying to make it so people aren't super toxic in game. And I kind of like that, because not only for mental sanity and mental health for everyone, but it's just not fun when you get introduced to a game and the first thing you hear is get good.
It's
Noob.
yeah, just constant
Or
trash talk.
even worse, like if you've ever played CS:GO, at least like now it's not so bad, but like if you played it like 3 years ago, you would get yelled at for not knowing certain callouts.
Yeah.
And the same thing for like League of Legends, Dota. Like if you didn't know how to play, you hopped in a match to try and play, you got yelled at for not knowing what to do. And so it was just kind of. I like their approach to it. I get it's gonna kind of affect people in a certain way, but I like their approach to it. I've said some no savory things to cheaters. Yeah, cheaters and exploiters. Yeah, exactly. And that's a different thing too. But I think it's more of like the toxicity between teammates that causes the game to not be fun.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing. If this goes over well, you're going to see games like Counter-Strike. I don't think Call of Duty is going to do it, because if you remember Modern Warfare 2 lobbies, man, they aren't going to.
It was fun.
But yeah, it's gonna be really interesting how this unfolds and how it affects the rest of the scene. Really, I'll play Siege with any form of chat or voice on. I just instant mute when I load in. Yeah, Siege is another one.
Yeah, no. Just no. No. I love dark humor and like just super messed up stuff, but even
Yeah.
I have chat off. It's just a minefield. It's
Right.
not worth it.
Death Comms and Warzone are some of the best. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like Death Comms and Warzone are like the same degree of Modern Warfare 2, where it's just like you kill someone, no matter how you kill them, whether you just got lucky with a shot or you just flat out fragged them, and then they'd have the audacity just to call you every word in the book.
Back then, people like just the word offended was not a thing. It did not exist.
No, it did not exist. And if you were offended, you just muted him and you moved on, or the game started, you didn't care anymore. Like back then, if you talked smack in the lobby, you had to prove it, or else you got made fun of the next match, or they rage quit, or they like that was hardcore cyberbullying. And now when you just say, "Oh, get good," people are like, "Oh no, my feelings."
Yeah. Times really have changed, huh? Like we went from major trash talk to like you can use one word, a single word, and the entire lobby is gonna get heated.
I don't think the issue was that the new generation is going up soft. I wonder if it's just that we came to realize the crap
That
we
we
said.
said.
Yeah, the stuff that we said isn't really acceptable. And everyone who
Like,
said it is now going to be like, yeah, that was not cool.
yeah, we might we might burn now. Like, hold on. Like we let's reconsider.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, I'm sure teenagers nowadays are doing the same thing, where they're going to start saying stuff in random lobbies. And I mean, unfortunately, now they can get backlash for it. But now they grow up, and then they grow up, and you're like, oh yeah, that wasn't cool. That wasn't. I should have been as edgy as I was.
But, yeah.
I've come to realize that human being on the other side of what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, true.
Like you're talking to a person.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, it's not just
it's not just some random robot or just another character on this on the
they have
screen.
feelings.
Yeah. What's even better too is like if you start snapping at someone and they snap back, you're like, wait, no.
God.
It's more than a screen name. Yeah. Especially with the whole mindset of like mental health and like how it can really affect someone for words over even over video games. It can really affect someone, especially if they're already having like a bad day, bad week, whatever. It can really affect them, and that's definitely. I mean, I hope that's in the mindset, or it could just be that people just are sticking around private voice comms and just doing their crap talking there. So, but yeah, you wanted to mention how a certain team was doing in the.
G2, dude, I have no idea what happened to G2. It's shit, they're just gone. They're gone, dude.
Yeah,
I don't know what's making them perform so poorly. A lot of people are just saying because Pingu's not there. I don't know.
yeah. I'm not.
Pingu was great, but I don't think he was.
I mean, losing one key player shouldn't make you. I mean, it could. I mean, it can, but it shouldn't. And
Right.
the way I think about that is, you have a nice chemistry with one team, and then one guy who's could be classified as a star player, or if not, outperforms most of the team to make sure you guys get in those certain spots, or helps the team get better. That person leaves, and now you have to readjust your chemistry to adjust for that hole to be filled, and that new person coming in. And personally, I haven't seen any of the games, but I can imagine the technical ability is still there. It's just figuring out everyone's play structures,
Playstyle.
yeah, play
Yeah.
structures, chemistry, and just getting things together. Especially with I don't know if there was any other big siege event before this one since Pangu left, but it might take an appearance or two for G2 to really start making their mark again. SMG11 is such an important piece of defense. His flexibility in attack too is gone. Oh, yeah. I mean, if yeah, that's the thing too. Is like when a key player leaves and he's like he has a certain role, you have to find another player to fill that
To
role,
fill said role, yeah.
and that transition itself could even be an issue. Like I know, like yeah, if you like play like a certain character, you play a certain spot, and then one person leaves, you have to move and readjust yourself. Not to mention, his replacement is only played for like a month or so with G2. Yeah, exactly. Right. So, and even to adjust yourself to a new tier one team, it takes time. Sometimes you have that honeymoon period where it clicks and it snaps and everything's fine and dandy, but then you have those other times where it doesn't. It just doesn't.
It do go down.
It do go down, but I mean, there's always that chance where as soon as that it does click, then you're fine. You're golden. It's just getting that click was what they're probably having issues with right now.
I literally just opened Twitter for the first time today. Kayak, one of the G2 members, is happy about a single dub. What happened, bro?
I mean,
No.
that's the thing too, is like you take those little victories, you take those first moments of a new team, like, hey, we got this dub, we got this moment. Now let's try for the next one.
Yeah, they're 1-6.
Yeah. I mean, I,
Oof.
I probably don't doubt it. Yeah, and you're also revamping the entire team with that new addition. So, I mean, oh yeah, Apache, if you want to hop in here and join the conversation, feel free. I did make a whole new Discord category for it, where if you want to hop on the on deck, we can throw you in. I have to kind of configure how it's laid out on Twitch or on OBS, but I can do that if you want to hop in. Yeah, man, now let's chat. Let's do it. Hello.
Aloha.
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going, man. It's a Saturday. I'm feeling good.
I would imagine.
Yeah, dude. I got 2 days, Monday, Tuesday, right, of actual, instruction in the classroom. Then we start exams, and I'm just kind of, sitting there staring at my email.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm feeling good. How are we doing in here?
I'm doing.
I can't wait till this year's over.
Yeah, it's the difference between, being on my side of the desk and being on Bird's side of the desk.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
universe teacher.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
So, do you have any input on the R16 that you want to put in?
Just kind of piggybacking what you'd already said, like we're taking a back seat in the CL type of grind.
Mm-hmm.
And most of that is just to give our guys an opportunity to get a solidified roster for more than a couple of months. Because
Right.
yeah.
And yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, I'm sure that's usually an issue, especially being a lower tier team as Redux Rising would be, is getting people who would want to stay and kind of push the envelope of their skills, and getting somewhere would be kind of hard.
Yeah, and tier 3 is and it doesn't really matter which esport you're in. Tier 3 is it's a jungle,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
one without a map, because you'll come in with a team, and we've had this that has had success,
Mm-hmm.
but they either don't fit the org as a whole in terms of like what they're looking for, what we're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
or you have that situation where they're successful, but their personalities don't clash,
Right.
or do clash, I should say, and then you end up in this situation where we're winning, but like the team just doesn't like each other, and that's just not a healthy situation to be in.
Right. I mean, that's always tough too, because then you have to deal with the repercussions of trying to get people to stay, and then the mentalist is like, oh, we get a new person, but then he leaves shortly after, and it's just like the teammates are like, what are we doing this for then? If the people we get aren't staying.
Yeah, it's a very delicate balance, because obviously at the end of the day, both the players and the org, like, you want to win.
Oh yeah.
But there's also the question of at what cost.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a cost on Redux's end, where we've got to put more resources into this, and obviously we're going to do that. But when it comes down to the mental of the guys that are on your team that you're in the Discord with,
Mm-hmm.
If it's stressful to join a voice call because you know that you're going to have a conversation with somebody about something,
Right.
then at that point it's really not worth the dub.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not especially here and across all of our teams, it's not a win at all costs type of facility.
Right.
It's it's the motto: how do we win together? Like, you have to fit that mold, because none of us are here to get rich. Especially, I'd like that on my salary, yeah. But that's not really the end all be all. Like, we're gonna win, and we're gonna win the right way.
Right. And that's always the mentality is of this team, especially, and I've definitely seen it firsthand, being here since March now, which doesn't seem that long, but being around all the teams and watching them play, you could definitely actually see it through the players, especially the Call of Duty EU team, and the CSGO team. They're always
just professionals.
Yeah,
outright.
they're showing the highest class of esport athletes that you can get, especially at this low level. It's really good to see.
Yeah, it's just and I think that's again, I haven't been here too much longer than you have. I came in around, I think we're almost at a year, about now-ish, maybe a little after. But one of the first things that I noticed being here is that it's not just about the stat sheet. It's not just about or actually to a large extent, it's not really about the earnings at all either. Um, it's about like what have we done for this team,
Right.
and I think that culture is something that I think tier 3 especially just does not quite understand or doesn't quite get right.
Right. And
Everybody's looking for that instant success and doesn't understand that, and because we live in that world of like instancy, everything you want is at your fingertips,
right.
except this. And like just bringing in, just like IRL sports, bringing in, just going to use 5 people because Siege,
Yeah.
bringing in the 5 best players doesn't lead to success.
At least not all the time. It may like 1 out of 10
Right.
times, but find those same people that are on the same mindset and will have the chemistry to work together is tough.
And it's, you see it a lot, honestly, in the last 10 years or so. And I'm not a huge NBA guy, but you've seen it before, like where you bring in 5 superstars. The problem is, though, all 5 of those guys need the ball to be superstars. There's only one basketball on the court, though.
Right. Exactly. You always get that person that comes up who expects to be the star role, doesn't get the star role, and then doesn't put his whole heart into the team, and then the rest of the team therefore suffers as well. And Ko actually mentioned in chat, June 21st will be a year for you.
June 21st. Wow.
June 21st would be a year.
All right. So when do I get paid, Ko?
we'll pay you in a cutout.
Okay, yeah, bet. I've been working on those for a while, man. I'm excited.
Yo, I actually low key, I was probably gonna like get one for you.
Just so like a fat
or just like put it behind me. I'll just have an Apache cut out behind me on streams.
Oh yeah, we talked about that. If we ever do make it as an org where we have like like a Dark Zero house or TSM house, that type of thing, 100 Thieves, it is mandatory that there will be an Apache cutout, like not a fathead. Like you're actually gonna have to post this in your room somewhere.
I think at that point we would just need to get a cutout for everyone who's in management, and then just randomly we'll just stick them random spots, and then we'll just keep them there for some amount of time.
Oh, I love it.
Switch them out every now and again. One day like Koda will be behind me. Next day you'll be behind me. Just put them in a window for people passing by.
Oh yeah, we need to like wire them up to where like every few hour intervals, like there's like a voice that comes out of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, 100%. We got to get a quotes chat going for that, so that way we can be prepared. We gotta have it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Outside of Siege news, I mean, CS:GO has had its first map change since Vertigo, which I think was about 2 years ago now. And for anyone who's not outside of, who doesn't have like an inside grasp of like CS:GO, they basically changed maps or interchanged maps, pretty much the same, like. I would say even 2 times longer than the time you should change the batteries in your smoke detector. Like, it takes some years to switch out maps, and I'm kind of leading to the question of, is that actually going to hurt them going forward if they continue at that pace? Because while Valorant is new, they've been introducing a map at least once every 2-3 months and showing that their plans are to keep it fresh, keep the gameplay going. And so, CS:GO is also introducing like other community maps to freshen it up a little bit. Their choices of picking maps is very sporadic.
So is this a new map or is this a change?
So this is a brand new map. It's not like
okay.
Well, it's technically it's both, because it's a map called Ancient, which is, if anyone's familiar with CS:GO, it's pretty much a remake of their Aztec map from way back 1.6 era, early CS:GO era. And it's pretty much like a remake of that map, but it came onto the scene back in January, and they're now adding it to the full active map. It's like if, let's say, I know like our Rainbow Six had a whole bunch of like map reworks, but let's say they like redid. Let's say they redid Oregon. It's like the same style map, but they changed everything, put it in the game. 6 months later, it's now in your active pool. How much is that going to throw you off?
No, to be honest with you, in Siege, not much, because in ranked, it's just going to be banned every single time it comes up.
That is true.
Yeah.
But I see your point. Like throwing a wrench into the machine. I don't know. I mean, because I don't really know that there's much that you can do now to rejuvenate the CS:GO scene more than they already have.
Right.
And it's not even an effort, on their point to rejuvenate it. It just has kind of taken a life of its own on again, just in the last 2 years. So,
Right.
I mean, a new map, like I think that's probably exciting for at least the casual community. But if that's going to be in like a pro league style play, I'm interested. I'm sure you probably have the information on this or would know where to look. When is that map going to be quote unquote unlocked to be, part of the map pool for the highest levels of competition?
So typically how CSGO works is once a map is switched in the active pool, tournament organizers like ESEA, Faceit, or whoever else may be organizing it, they have the option of putting that in like the next tournament. So obviously not the one they're currently in because they can't switch the metas, but they have the option to do that like the next tournament, which would be in like probably a couple weeks to a month. Now, CSGO is different from Siege. You're right. Where Siege will probably get insta banned, but how CSGO tends to operate, especially when an older map like Vertigo got pushed out, teams will go to that map because they want to be the first to master it. And which I guess is a difference of mindsets when it comes to different sports. Is one esport will be like, nah, we'll stick way over that because we're not familiar with it. Where the other ones are like, let's go into this. Let's see if we can play this and see if we can get our strats that would dominate this map for the next 6 months or so. And the question though is that they got rid of a fairly, I would say popular map. I don't know how else feels. They got rid of a map called Train, which is a very competitive map, and the one that everyone wanted to get rid of was like Mirage or something like that. Like Apache, what would be like a map in a Siege where like you play a lot, and while it's not your most fun to play, it's just like it really well.
You talking for me personally, or for the scene as a whole?
I mean, you personally, and you can also like mention like what you've seen from like other Siege players as well. Like, what would be like a map where you're like, I don't really like playing it, but I know it really well, so if it gets picked, I'm fine.
I would say, unfortunately, there's actually a handful. In my opinion, the few that I'll point out, I'll start kind of in a different direction. It's one that is banned often, but is also one that somehow finds its way in play often. Is Coastline. The community genuinely does not enjoy playing this map. However, because it's been along for as long as it has, people are comfortable on how to play it.
Right.
I think the same could be said for the rework of Oregon. Oregon is not a map that, like, people do enjoy the map, but it actually got to a point in Pro League, which I think this is very interesting that this is intertwining with the conversation that we're having about bringing in this new CSGO map. The rework of Oregon and the rework of Club, actually, are one of those maps kind of in the same basket where at one point during Pro League, Oregon was played, and I don't have the percentages for you, but it was played way more than people were happy to see it.
Oh, yeah.
And it got to the point that like it was a good map, like and it still is. It's a pretty balanced map. You have a lot of options. You have a lot of rotations. Like there's a way that you can make that map work for whatever it is that you're trying to do or trying to counter strat. The problem was, from a viewer standpoint, people were tired of seeing this map over and over and over again.
Right. So let's take that mindset, and now Mirage for CSGO, that's the map that everyone's like, all right, like we'll play it. We don't want to necessarily play it, but it's there, and viewers are like, "Oh my goodness!" Like I'm tired of seeing Mirage as a map.
Again?
Yeah, like I'm tired of seeing Mirage. Like you'll see it like in like a best of 3 or whatnot. You'll see it. It'll usually be like if it's not picked in the first 2, it's usually the decider, and that's slowly gotten to shift to be a different map, Inferno. But for a while, and everyone's like, "Oh, this will be the next map to get out of the rotation," because like the community itself is like the map itself isn't bad. It's just we've played it for so long. Give us something new. And then they took away another map, Train, instead for this active pool, and it's just like people are like, why? Why would you get rid of? Why would you get rid of a map that we didn't care about and actually enjoyed playing, for a map we wanted to get taken out, and didn't?
So if I'm understanding this correctly, then they took the siege, side of, which actually I shouldn't even equate the two because those are very, very different. They basically took out the map that people were like, hey, like this is still kind of fun. I'm chilling with this. I'm okay when that's chosen. And then replaced it with a new map when they had one that the entire community, at least from, your lens, which I, again, will not pretend to know the CSGO scene all that well. They took out like a map or didn't take out the map that people were like, dude, can we just, for the love of God?
Yeah. And this also comes from views from like ESEA and like for people of higher levels. So it's not just me who's server elite master in the game, which is a low level. It's not just me. It's like majority of the middle to high class community is like, we're kind of tired of this map. It's not. It's just everyone knows most of the strats are gonna be pulled, regardless of if they face a team or not. It's like once you kind of understand like how the map's played and you played it like thousands of times, there's no new strat for it. You know pretty much what a team could pull on you, and you're usually prepared for it. So it usually becomes this back and forth battle of who can get that thin margin error or that one clutch that puts them over the top, unless the team is just outright dominant, and then it doesn't matter. But it gets to the point where it's just like whatever team can get that edge and get the right timings and positions will ultimately win, obviously. So
right. So I think I understand that. Siege is a little bit different, but also very, very similar. There are tried and true strats, like especially defensively, on what walls to open, what walls to close. But I think Siege is one of the more dynamic in that respect, in that there is the same thing of like, if you lose your opper, for example, on in certain situations like it, you know that you're gonna have to 2-for-1, or that's a lost cause. Siege, like you lose your hard breach, on certain maps, cafe, for example, like you might be in a bit of a funk.
Right.
But I think Siege is very different in the respect that the pocket strats that you can make in that will work for one round and one round only are incredibly interesting to see.
Right. And I'll give it a fair go. Is that teams are still making Mirage somewhat interesting at the competitive level, but it's just like it's gotten to the point. Even those like interesting moments are kind of dulled out by the fact that we've seen the map so many times.
Yeah, and I think that's where the Siege community was, and I think still is, but it's kind of subsided considering the SI event going on. We haven't seen Oregon nearly as often as we're used to seeing, but it was like you knew what 5 operators were going to be brought on attack, with a flex to maybe 1 or 2 at max. You knew what 5 were going to be on defense, again a flex of 1 or 2 or max. Like they could have, for a Siege vet or somebody that even as a casual player that just watches Pro League every day, they could have actually blacked the screen out on operator selection, put a poll up of 7 operators that you can choose from on attack and 7 operators you could choose from on defense. And even a dude that has played the game for 10 hours but watches Pro League is going to be at least 70% correct on what's being brought and where they're going.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my mindset. Most of the communities of like why this map switch was done the way it was. And not only that, but they introduced this map and it's still not fully optimized. So like older maps are done in a way where like even like minimal spec PCs could still play it fairly well. And now with this new map, it's giving those minimal spec PCs a run for their money where they can't really compete, which is also going to be an issue going forward. They start introducing the newly designed maps with newer like design features, like newer models, and more of them. I should say that's probably gonna be an issue as well.
I would agree because I mean I think, and this is true. I would argue for every community that has an opportunity to play a game
Mm-hmm.
At lower specs, but with CS:GO being such a global game, that does suck for the guys that are playing on a laptop but are Shaco Siege style cracked. Like now there's a map in this ranked pool but they can't pull enough, FPS is what I'm assuming, like to actually be able to compete with the guy who has like a build like you do, or a build like I do, or like a decent. I shouldn't even say decent, but like a portion of the community.
Yeah.
Like you're taking a map and you're like paywalling it behind hardware,
right,
for a game that has never really had that before.
Right, and it's tough. Like even a PC spec like mine, like it hinders it a little bit. It's not like it's gonna take it down a lot, but like if I were on the stream and play that map, I noticed this yesterday when I was playing it. My FPS on stream was not good. Like it was choppy. It stuttered every now and again. It just overly wasn't good quality. Where it ultimately leads up to the map because it took more processing power away from the stream, obviously, and so it led to like a poor quality for people to watch. And I'm interested to see because that was also an issue too when they released an updated version of another map, Cache, a few months ago. Or actually, probably about more like a year and a half ago now. Year and a half ago, and that also caused performance issues for people. And then they toned it back with updates and stuff like that. And it gets to a point, like at some point, the game's kind of warn people, like, hey, we're starting to upgrade. You need to start upgrading hardware.
And I think that's a necessary evil, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it does suck and I was one of those. Like I was a laptop gamer for a couple of years. I was in college when I first got out. I wasn't really sure if I would need something mobile, for work.
Right.
And so like there was a couple of years I was playing Siege at like 60 FPS and was just kind of happy to be there.
Right.
But for guys that are more mechanically gifted than me, there's two sides of the sword here. It's like you're kind of taking the opportunity away from longtime CS:GO players to continue to play the game, but at the same time, like when was the last time that game was actually like kind of quote unquote brought up to spec?
I mean, for me personally, as like a player, an active player, I think when it went to its old lobby interface, where it was kind of like outdated to like their panorama, where it made it more upscale and it brought it in kind of like the competition of like Call of Duty, Siege, stuff like that, where it made it more modern, I would say. I think that was kind of the tipping point where they're really going to start bringing this game up to compete with the graphic styles of Siege and Call of Duty, where I wouldn't say it's more lifelike, but it's going to be more polished. And that's going to be the issue with people going forward is, I mean, it happens with every game too. Like if you eventually, like you got to bring it up to modern standard, or else your game is quote unquote old, and people may lose interest and move on. So,
I'm with you on that. I mean, the graphic changes, I think, and again, I'll have to re-download it and kind of experience it for myself. But I do think that that's really interesting that they have, introduced a map that is, upgraded, if you want to consider that, more polished, requires more, CPU, GPU type usage. I wonder if that's going to continue to be the trend, or is like this just like, hey, we're giving you this map, and then like you had said earlier, like it's going to be 2 years until you get another one.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's at this point it's Valve, and anyone who knows Valve, they like to push things off for as long as possible.
Oh, they do. So, yeah, they do their own thing.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess we'll kind of just wait and see on how they decide to do that going forward. And I do So I will say this as like a closing thought: is I like the idea that they're starting to put new maps into the active pool.
I would
My
agree.
only thing is I kind of wish they'd listened to the community a little more for picking the map to switch. That's pretty much like my main thought. Is I like the idea of it because it keeps the game fresh. It keeps you having to be on your toes and learn new things and new play styles and whatnot for that map. And so I hope they keep doing that. Whether it's hopefully a 6 month interval, that'd be fine. Maybe even a yearly interval where we go a full year of tournaments with that map, and then we start integrating a new one, and then take another one off. So teams have enough time to practice and try their strats out on the map.
So I want to keep with your closing thoughts so that we can move on and not drag it out. But I do have one question for somebody like you that knows the CS:GO scene just a bit, at least. Like you understand it way better than I do. My question is, for you personally, not necessarily the community, is 6 months to a year enough? Because what you see a lot in the Siege scene is a new map will drop. And it's seasonal based, so you have about 3 months or so where it's just not in Pro League at all. The operator cannot even be chosen either, right? So and that's a little bit different, obviously. For Siege, there's opposite drop with it. But the map itself, just seclude that part. Is 6 months to a year enough for, in your opinion, the pro scene in CS:GO to develop enough confident strats that map is just not going to continue to be banned until the point that the casual community has played it so much that, like, how do I explain it?
I kind of get what you're saying. It's like, what would be the
To the point
appropriate
that it's
time
boring.
for?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say like for life cycles of the map, and I'm gonna answer this question by kind of like bringing it to an overall light of how I think it should go. Is if they do plan on bringing in a new map, like let's say I'll use Ancient for example because it's the one they just released. But let's say they had a plan like, okay, we like this map, we're gonna introduce it to the community. I then want them to be like, hey, in 6 months or some period of time, we're gonna implement this into the active pool. So start learning it because it's gonna be there. That way, teams have an adequate amount of time to prep their strat books. I mean, I know they have other things going forward and stuff like that, but like on their downtime, like, hey, let's take a look at this map. Let's start prepping for it. And that way, when it's released, and on the next tournament where they bring that map into the pool for the tournament seedings, they can pretty much jump right in and know the map and keep it nice and fresh for everyone and keep the gameplay going. And then once that map is done, and I'd say probably about a year, maybe a year and a half, do the same process, bring another map into the community, see how it's done, see what tweaks need to be done, and be like, all right, this is at a point where we think this is a nice balanced map where it'd be nice in a competitive setting. We're gonna push it out in about 6 months, so get ready, and then they'll take out a different map so it keeps like a rotating flow going. And I'm not saying take out the old maps for good, but at least take them out for a period of time where they can kind of like if you get Burnout, you want to take a break from it. Whereas you can step away from a map. Like let's say we'll step away from Coastline for 6 months to a year, and then switch that back out for a different map. And it's like, okay, or with like some tweaks and changes, we're like, okay, this is nice and fresh again. I don't mind playing it. You know what I mean?
I think Siege does that really well. And again, that's kind of where I was pointed with this, was both like the pro league type community and the casual community. Every season, the maps that are in casual rotation will rotate.
Right.
Like you might be able to play plane, you might not be able to. You might be able to play house, you might not be able to.
And that's what I kind of hope CS:GO starts to incorporate with this, is rather than just implementing straight new maps, start rotating them so people get experience with the other maps and keep it fresh, right? And like if they want to queue for those, like they can still like choose a mode. Like in casual, you can even in competitive,
you can pick your map.
You can pick the map you want to and choose whether to queue in the active duty or not. And I would keep it that way. So like if you want to, for whatever reason, just keep playing Mirage because that's all you want to play, and then keep doing it, you know. And that's how I feel like CS:GO. That's how I would like to see CS:GO handle it.
So do you think for people that are trying to establish themselves in the CS:GO community for an opportunity, to get better,
Mhm.
do you think the ability to choose the map that you play on is a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, I wouldn't say like you choose it. I would say more of like if you can have a voice where like majority vote of the community is like, all right, let's do this action. Let's replace this map with this map. Have Valve put in their input. Like that's a good idea. We'll look into it. Let's do it because the community wants it.
Right. I'm looking at it from a different lens.
Okay.
I should have gave you more,
Mm.
of where my mental is. So for CS:GO, like when I load up CS:GO, I can choose to queue for, one of, what is it, 8 maps, 10 maps,
Yeah.
12 maps. And Siege is very different. You click the rank button, you click the casual button, and you are, in a rank, there's 3 maps in front of your face. All 10 people in the lobby vote to ban whatever map, and then whichever one has the least banned votes is the one that you play.
Right.
Or if everybody bans the same thing, then it's down to RNGesus.
Right.
But in CS:GO, I can load the game up and I can click and say, I want to play this. And I'm curious as to your thoughts on how that meshes with the community as a whole. And here's my reasoning behind that. In Siege, you have to, unfortunately, and I think this is a growing pain of Siege that CS:GO does not have. If I want to start CS:GO, I'm just going to pick a map that a lot of people are in. I'm going to go learn that map. And then I'm going to be at least competent in the way that that map works. I might not be good at it, but I know it.
Right.
Siege, you don't get that luxury. You click the casual button, you click the rank button, you could be in one of 10 maps at any point in time. And you're very rare to play the same map, over and over and over enough in a 3, 4, 5 hour play session that you're actually going to understand it.
So this is one thing I like that the that CS:GO does is when you click on casual, it gives you like a set category of what you could pick. Not necessarily like you could pick each individual map, but like here's your active pool map. Here's like a backup map pool that has like these other maps, and then another section. So it's like 3 different sections. There's the active, and then the 2 other ones that are like less commonly played, but you can still play them. What I like is when you go into that group, and then that casual map finishes, everyone who remains in that lobby can vote on which map gets picked next.
Oh, like the Call of Duty thing.
Pretty much. Like, it doesn't pick the same...
Okay.
You can't pick the same map again. You pick another map, and then you go to that one, and you play on that one. And then if that one completes and you want to go back to the other map, that's what happens. And that's majority vote. So, unfortunately, you don't have much control in that. But if you wanted to... but it would give you access and experience to the different maps that come along that casual as you learn both your core mechanics as well as callouts for those maps. So in a way, it's kind of like growing steps for you.
Okay, I get it, and I like that. I kind of wish I know it wouldn't work for Siege, but I wish that there was a way that it could.
Right.
Just because CS:GO is also a daunting game, but when you learn into CS:GO, like you guys are all the same person. It's just what you bring.
Right. Exactly.
And so like I don't think there's enough player base or knowing the way the community is split between maps. I think it would actually be detrimental to Siege like long term. But I kind of wish that there was a world that we lived in which we could implement something like that, just so that when you load into the game, like you can at least, with, hopefully you're lucky enough to have people with you to kind of show you the ropes, where you can pick a map that is arguably easier to learn and then back out of queue and then go back into that map.
Right.
Rather than just wandering around lost for days at a time.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just how both games just, I guess, treat their casual maps and keeping the maps fresh for especially new people.
Yeah, I like the way CS:GO does it.
Yeah,
I'll be honest about that. I really do like that.
All right, I think we're actually gonna wrap up the show here because it's been about an hour, and I usually try to make it at least about an hour or under. So, I appreciate Patchy you hopping in and sharing your thoughts and talking with us. I know Verx isn't really well associated with the CS:GO scene, but also having him here for the Siege topics was really good as well. So
Absolutely, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
not a problem at all. As for everyone else in chat, we're gonna end the episode here. If you're listening on Apple Music, Spotify, whatever, make sure you rate appropriately. Give us the 5 stars, thumbs up, all that stuff, and then join the conversation. We stream it live on Twitch.tv/Redux Rising, and then as a last bit of piece, we have merch that'll be dropping this upcoming Friday, the 21st. There'll be teasers going out on the Twitters and all that stuff. So keep an eye out, and we'll see you guys on the next show.
And if you didn't know, Redux Rising is your mom's favorite org.
It is. So, and listen to Apache because he's usually right. See you guys later. Have a good night.